Good evening, ladies and gents. Have a good day. Today we've got some RPG horror stories because you guys seem to really like that. I don't blame you. They're good fun, quite frankly. I'm gonna try and have a more relaxing video today. Hope you enjoy it. Leave some feedback in the comments. The story of how a nerdy teacher and a club leader ended up being outed as a serial predator. Hello you guys, I was listening to some RPG horror stories and remembered that I kind of had one myself. I'll leave a TLDR at the bottom because this one is going to be a long one. I'll try to keep the details as vague as possible because the police were involved and it received some media attention in our town. This story begins in my freshman year of high school. Me, being the dramatic teen I was completely alone and friendless, as all my friends from junior high had ended up going to the high school across town. Literally all of them. I had no one. Q, an upperclassman, referred to as C from now on, but had joined the marching band in the year above me. He must have noticed it was pretty hard he must have noticed I was pretty alone because he started hanging out with me. Introduced me to a bunch of cool board and card games like MTG, Yu-Gi-Oh, and of course D&D. He even encouraged me to join a club where all they did was play card games and D&D during lunch and after school. I was mostly an MTG club, but after school, the dedicated few would meet up and play D&D with the teacher. I'll call Mr. Cool. Mr. Cool was super nerdy, and he had this 4th edition Wrath of Ascadillan adventure that he would pull out and use to introduce us newbies to D&D. On top of that, C was running a 3.5 campaign in which I played a ranger, and I loved it right away. The veterans were playing a 4th edition game as well, but I preferred 3.5. Freshman year goes off without any real troubles. It's sophomore year when we get introduced to the master manipulator and the one who pulled the strings, Mr. Big Bad. Mr. Big Bad was this guy in his late 30s, and all the other kids idolized him. In fact, he was very popular with the entire school and with the ladies as well. And his fiancée, who was 26 to 27, would often show up to sling dice with us after school. Mr. Big Bad was often super busy running another department on campus, but he just loaned us the room, and we, being kids, didn't think it was very sus at the time. The club had been under Mr. Cool's direction, but he had to leave over the summer to teach for another district, and Mr. Big Bad had offered to take over as club director. The club became a lot less focused on MTG and more on D&D, which I didn't mind. The veterans still had their 4th edition campaign, and C was still running the 3.5 game. But that became more and more sporadic, so I went less and less, until junior year when 5e came out. Now, I loved 5e, and brought up the idea to see that we could continue the discontinued 3.5 campaign as a 5e game, and he loved the idea as well. Junior year was a blast, and when officer elections came up again, I really wanted to keep the club going and follow in C's footsteps, so I ended up becoming elected as president for the club. Additionally, I was a big fan of Mr. Big Bad and offered to be his office assistant for the upcoming senior year. The club had been growing quite a bit since I started playing in it, and I had managed to get our local tabletop gaming shop to donate dice and discounts to club members. Mr. Big Bad was on board with it all, and even helped me set up a Teespring so we could print club t-shirts for the first time. Things were going great. I was in line to be top of the class senior year. Mr. Big Bad was my teacher in 2 different classes, and the club was growing great and had a lot of interest from the student body. Nothing could go wrong. Mr. Big Bad was gone. In the middle of senior year, Mr. Big Bad disappeared. No one knew anything. All the gaming equipment was still in his classroom, and we had substitutes for the rest of the year, but things started coming to light. But months have followed his mysterious disappearance. I heard he got in a car accident and is in the hospital. Maybe a family emergency came up. No way, man, I heard someone broke in and shot him. Rumors ran throughout the school like wildfire. As I said, Mr. Big Bad was a popular teacher. As time went on, some of the rumors got nastier. I heard he got arrested. Some people saw him get dragged away from his house in handcuffs. I heard he and his fiancée are on the run. Bonnie and Clyde style. No way, I am friends with this girl, and apparently he and his fiancée raped her last year before the summer break. At the time, I thought these rumors were just that, rumors. I defended him when people claimed a bunch of negative stuff about him. Too caught up in my idolization of him and not willing to believe that the people I trusted so much would do such things. Well, as it turns out, some of the nastier rumors were more right than wrong. Mr. Big Bad and Bonnie had indeed done some very horrible things to a previous student, and the reason Mr. Big Bad wasn't showing up anymore was that he'd been arrested and was under house arrest while the accusation was being looked into. It gets worse, he had done it at school, and his fiancé had indeed been a part of it, and that this had been going on for almost 20 years. As a case built up against him, more and more women came out and explained what had been going on. That fiancé of his, she was a previous victim but had enjoyed what they were doing, and that was why she stuck around. It was a seriously fucked up situation. I was horrified that a person I trusted, to whom the club had a ton of trust for, could do something like that. I looked back at all our interactions. There had never been any hint initially until I was reminded of the student who made the accusations in question was hanging out a lot of time in the club room after school was during lunch. Holy crap, this had all been happening during club times most likely. At the time, I had always waved away his excuses for not supervising us, as always being busy. It had made sense. He was running like 3 clubs and one of them was pretty major, requiring a lot of time in the rooms he would claim to go to. Us nerds would just stick around and hang out in the club room, slinging dice while he would take his victims to other parts of the building and violate them. The situation was really fucked up, and the only thing that kept me going the rest of school senior year was making sure that C's efforts of growing a big tabletop club weren't in vain. I found a new teacher to take over club supervision, one who was serious about the whole supervision part, and wrapped up the 5e game C had started. They had left me in charge of DMing it after they graduated. I oversaw election officers for the next year as well. Once that had been squared away, I just forgot about it. I had lost all interest in D&D from the incident. I felt dirty. I had supported a predator for God's sake. Hang out in the same room as one. Laughed alongside him at the D&D table when he decided to run a game for us. Brainstormed about ways to improve the club. It was all too much and I just focused on studying for my spring finals and graduating. I didn't play tabletop games for 2 years. No MTG, no D&D, nothing. Until I stumbled into C one fateful encounter and we started talking about our old high school game. It brought up a ton of memories for me, and I realized that I wanted to try again. I looked up a nice module to run, Horde of the Dragon Queen, and recruited from a Discord server. Illuminati Discord. Illuminati, I don't know. I used to be super into them, but stopped when I realized she was just causing drama for no reason, and now here I am, 5 or 6 years later with a strong group of online friends. I came to my own as a perma DM, grew a backbone and kicked some of the nastier players that we got from that Discord, and then just had a blast. All of my players are amazing and wonderful, and I wouldn't trade them for the world. Horde of the Dragon Queen eventually led to Rise of Tiamat, and from there to more adventures over the years. It's been a fun and wild ride since. Also, I'm probably one of the few that got very few complaints from players running Horde of the Dragon Queen, and considering that I was pretty new and open to criticism from my players, I encourage you to give it another try if you didn't like your first time running / playing it. Nothing cooler than a group of level 1s stumbling across a city being raided by cultists and a fucking dragon they get to fight. TLDR, Predator teacher takes over our D&D club to act as a supervisor but drags female students away during the times he should be watching us to violate female students with the help of his fiancée. That was a long and seriously fucked up story, OP. I'm sorry that all of the people in your school had to go through that. No one should ever. Because you got betrayed. The females that were abused got fucking abused. I know I'm laughing, but that's how I deal with fucking shitty situations like this. That's just kind of a fucked up situation all around, and people like that shouldn't be in the teaching position. And the fact that he was able to get away with it for 20 fucking years shows that our school system is not good enough. That shouldn't be allowed. It shouldn't even be possible, but it happened. Weird guy wants to play a woman with the mind of a 3-year-old, and uses a homebrew class that he won't let the DM see. This is mostly secondhand knowledge from my DM. I only played in a single session with this guy before he got kicked. So a few months ago, I joined a 5e campaign in a new DM's homebrew world with 3 other players, none of whom really matter except this one guy who I will call Dave, in large part because I can't remember his actual name. The first session was fine, barring the fact that Dave's character, an Azima cleric, was apparently a literal angel. I thought this was a bit of a red flag, but as there didn't seem to be any mechanical changes, I just didn't say anything, and hoped it would work out okay. Next week, the DM told us that Dave had gotten kicked, and everyone else at the table agreed that the literal angel thing had been a definite red flag, and we should have said something to the DM. Later on, the DM mentioned that Dave had actually been way worse than the rest of us realized, and the first red flag had actually been the fact that his character was supposed to have the mind of a child in the body of a grown woman, which is fucking creepy. And the actual reason he got kicked out was he made a homebrew class that he wouldn't let the DM see after the DM told him multiple times not to play a homebrew class. The only reason the DM let it go that far was that this was literally his first time DMing, and I guess he wants to be accommodating, though thankfully he did wise up pretty quickly. Love confessions after 3 sessions? I've been playing with a group of people for almost 4 years now, and it's been really chill and fun. This group consists of me, my husband, a friend, Majin, the DM, Asuma, DM's best friend, and Tucker, the creeper. At the time, Tucker was actually an old friend of everyone else, besides me and Uru. I feel like I'm butchering that pronunciation, but I'm going to keep doing it. But I had just moved back into town after being gone a few weeks, and this was my first time ever meeting him. Majin and Asuma did seem a little wary when he joined, but I didn't understand why until after the events. The first session with Tucker got off to a rough start because he wanted to change his character completely, much to our annoyance. Majin helped him out while the rest of us did our own thing and waited, but only got in an hour of playing. We were in a shop. We always went out to eat after, so we hit our usual spot and talked about whatever. But Tucker didn't say a word to me. I caught him kind of staring at me, but didn't think much of it. Things went a little more smoothly on the next session though. We were splitting up in game and my character was going to go alone, but Tucker randomly wanted to go with my character. I played my character as antisocial and a loner who didn't communicate with new people, and I told him this, but he stuck with my character anyway. I loved to draw and was drawing my character while the story was focused on the others, and he asked for a commission of Ichigo from Bleach, which I never got to do, and agreed. We went out to eat afterwards like normal, and we were all talking about anime. I said something about Dragon Ball Z, and Tucker jumped in and agreed with me, and that was it. Session 3 wasn't really a session because Asuma was sick and Uru stayed home since he lived far out. Tucker also didn't show, so we just hung out and went out to eat. So I talked to this person at least a total of 3-ish times casually in person, and one time through a comment section of a post he made about being depressed one night. He then found the random ass courage to hit me with this. Hey, I just want to say that you're so beautiful, and if you weren't dating my husband, I would treat you way better than he does. I would spoil you rotten and treat you like the queen you deserve to be treated like. If you left my husband and be with me, you wouldn't regret it. You shouldn't tell him about this though, and keep it between us. After reading that, I kinda just froze, but once I couldn't speak, I immediately told my husband. Like I said earlier, Tucker knew Majin, Asuma, and my husband long before I came to the picture, so my husband was rightfully pissed off, and so were the others. I was very uncomfortable and thought about leaving the campaign, but Margin and Asuma completely had my back and made it clear that they would be talking to Taka at the next session, and oh boy they did. Margin kicked Taka from the campaign. By the end of their talk, Taka said that he thought he loved me and that I was so nice and so beautiful that he couldn't help it, and it felt like I led him on, because a casual conversation about anime is my nerdy mating call apparently. Well, I felt bad at first, but Asuma told me how something like this happened before, and it ended with Taka getting temp banned by the shop owner because he just didn't stop. After he was kicked, he posted all on his social medias about how depressed he was, which made me feel bad, so I attempted to reconcile, but it didn't go well. His whole attitude towards me 180'd, and he snapped at me saying, "Whatever, you don't know how depression feels, or how bad game over thoughts are." So I left him with this: actually, I know about as well as the next person, how it feels as I struggled with both since the age of 13. You'd know that if you actually got to know me, instead of trying to play Mr. Steal Your Girl and get in my pants. So yeah, that happened. Wasn't that crazy of a story, but it still makes me cringe to this day. Yeah, I disagree, to be honest, RP. I think that was a pretty fucking crazy and overall stupid story. Who thinks that just from 3 fucking words, pretty much, you can confess your love to someone who has, I don't know if you were a husband at the time or boyfriend at the time, but either way, like, for fuck's sake, Jesus, mate. If you were to do that to someone's girlfriend, normally you would get your ass beat. Like, you don't live through that a lot of the time. Holy fuck, and then to assume she hadn't thought about suicide and shit. For fuck's sake, go fuck yourself. Anyway, that's all for today. I know, great way of ending it. I had a good time. I'm just doing this at like fucking 1:30 a.m. in the morning because I have a terrible sleep schedule. If you like and if you want, you can like and subscribe. I don't really care. I want you to, obviously, but it's your choice. I'm not gonna fucking be like, oh no, there's gonna be a spider in your bed if you don't like any shit. No, you'll be fine. Do what you want. If you want to, though, do it, please. I would love it. I'd appreciate it. Also, check out my Twitch streams. I stream on Twitch. At Horrible Horrors with 2 E's on the end of Horrors. It's in my fucking bio, I believe. Have a good night, guys.